All right, athlete builder, back in business here. Got my man Lucas with me. We're in the library with today. We have Jeff Eaton, University of Miami Hurricanes, the U, from hails from Reading, Pennsylvania. Big boy lineman, played at Lock Haven U, all conference. Here's what's great about today's show, in my opinion, after having talked to him, listened to other podcasts with him on it, and doing some basic research. Legit athlete and player, a legit coach. His Oregon guy, Aaron Feld, says he's my right hand. So professionally, has a whole lifestyle and profession where he's working hard and doing well, succeeding. On the flip side, completely alter ego, had a lot of challenges growing up. Everyone does, but had some real mental health challenges, which talks about his mother, some other abusive relationships. So could be a completely opposite profession where he could be on his platform impacting people, and he already is on the mental health side. So he makes a big difference there. So we're lucky to have basically two people rolled into one. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. I love the comeback stories. So with all the mental challenges, there's usually physical ones as well. And since this show is called Athlete Builder, that's what we're doing, is we're building athletes, and there's a mental and physical component to it. So there's going to be a ton to talk about. Just a little bit more about Jeff's background. Strength and conditioning guy, been around a little bit. Short stints, Penn State, San Diego State, Missouri, Baylor, Morgan State, a little bit longer than UNLV. Then he's at my alma mater, Purdue, where he meets our guy, Lucas. They're both working there at the same time with the football team. Then Oregon, and now he's at the U, Miami Hurricane, down in lovely Florida. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Man,
Thank you very much for the time. Looking forward to getting into it. Lots of questions for you. But like I told you right before we started, first question, what was your first impression when you saw this little white kid from Fort Wayne, little running back, coming into Purdue's locker room to help out with all the strength boys? What was the first impression of Lucas? And then the second question is going to be, how was it working with Lucas up in West Lafayette?
first impression was this dude got to learn. He's going to have to learn how to get big. And I was like,
Right?
okay, all right. He better be good at lifting, man. But he figured it out, and he actually helped a lot of us too. So he was very proficient in a lot of the Olympic lifts, which was super helpful. Working with Lucas was absolutely fantastic. It was this is my daughter Eva. She's
Hey there.
gracefully with our presence. Okay, mom.
All right.
I love that. No, working with Lucas, man, it was awesome. We definitely had some adversity. We had some challenges. From an environment standpoint, a lot of I won't say any names, just out of respect for everybody there, but it was a tough situation. It really was. And we both worked through it. Everybody worked through it. I think the dynamics of our staff was just a little bit kind of different in certain aspects. But at the end of the day, I think what stood out for me with Lucas was once he figured out how to navigate the space and place of strength and conditioning as being an intern. I mean, he just went. He just rolled. And you need that. You need that as an intern. You need that as an assistant to be able to feel that energy. You need that person that's, kind of giving you that spark at times. As an assistant, it gets tiring. You have to deal with a lot of different challenges. You have to, obviously as the co-intern coordinator, I guess if you want to call me that, at Purdue, just kind of helping the interns. You're constantly trying to figure out ways to get these guys inspired and motivated to do a really tough job. And there's been, there were several times where, just seeing him train and how hard he was getting after it, that inspired and motivated me. And that was enough for me to say, okay, hey, this guy is, he's busting his ass on the platform, and he's, the cleans that dude was putting up. I'm like, bro, like I'll never be able to match that, but I also aspired. I was like, if he can do it, why the hell can't I do it? So, it's just a testament to you, buddy. Like you pushed a lot of us. I don't think you knew that. I probably didn't do a good enough job of voicing that, but I am now, giving you your flowers for sure, man. It was an incredible experience for us to go through, and to work together, man. And just to see where you're at now, the platform that you've built, you and Jim have built is tremendous. And that's what this business is all about. And I just feel like the profession in general is all about, is just really serving other people, and I think too often, sometimes we kind of get caught up in our own egos. And when I say that, like, don't limit yourself from ever thinking that you can't learn from somebody like quote unquote beneath you, or, who's lower on the totem pole. Like, I don't take that for granted at all. Like, there's certain things that I've learned from him, and, just watching how he, maneuvered into situations, and I'm sure he learned from me, but I don't ever want to limit myself to learn, from anyone. I can learn good, bad, and different from anyone. So my experience with Lucas, man, has always been good. And even now, I mean, it's, been a little while since we've last spoken, but I don't feel like there's any time lost. I feel like we can kind of pick up where we left off, because he's always kept it real with me, and I've always kept it 1,000% real with him. And that's how I'm going to be. That's never going to change. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
You might not know this, but physically, Lucas was, and still is pretty legit. He, in college, qualified for collegiate nationals in powerlifting, then also went to the Arnold in Olympic lifting, all within a couple months of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled 550 sumo deadlift off the platform yesterday.
Sheesh.
Right? I did.
550, and then I don't know if you got a glimpse of him in that tiny little bikini when he's on that bodybuilding show. He was about the same color as you, with all that spray tan and everything else that was caked on him. But he basically took down all the hardware in bodybuilding like this time last year, last summer. So
yeah. Did you know I did that?
I did. I saw that. Yeah, I kept up with that, man. That was awesome.
That was a wild time for me, let me tell you.
Yeah, how was that?
It wasn't as bad as what everybody was saying it would be, because I was talking to all these bodybuilders and all these guys. It's the worst time of your life. You're gonna hate your life. You better have a great girlfriend, or you guys ain't gonna work out. And it wasn't that bad. You had to be a little hungry. You had to be tired. You get a little, you had to control your emotions a little bit more. You had to think about, you had to process things a little bit more in detail, stuff like that. Because, I went from 200 pounds to 159, and, there's a point where I was doing an hour cardio in the morning at 5 a.m. I'm doing an hour cardio in the evening at 7 o'clock after work. Mm-hmm. And, and coaching, you got, how it is when you're coaching all day. Like, the last thing you probably want to do at the end of the day after you've done everything, you've done your training, is do more cardio, right? So, yeah. I mean, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I ate a bunch of food in the beginning. Wasn't eating a lot in the end. Felt real good halfway through. Mm-hmm. It was a learning experience, nutrition wise. Working out was easy. I didn't have to do Olympic lift. I didn't have to squat heavy, but right. The nutrition part of it and the sleep part of it and the mental discipline was the biggest thing I got from it. I went into it with hey, how hard can I do something I've never done before? What can I get out of this? And I came out with way more than what I expected. It made me better as a person, I felt like it made me better as a boyfriend in my relationship. I got better with my finances. So, good, and I won everything. I came out with 2 big trophies and 5 medals. So I took a couple overalls, and first time show. And, it wasn't, I had guys ask me, well, you're not on any drugs? You're not taking any drugs? I was like, protein and creatine,
It's hard work, man.
So I was taking digestive stuff the whole entire time to help with that. But it was a great time. It was fun. I don't think I'll ever do it again, though. To be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again. So it was a good time.
So, Jeff, just coming right out of college, like you were studying exercise science there, right? And so you're fortunate enough to think, hey, man, this is my calling. I want to get people to be better athletes. Did it ever cross your mind, hey, maybe I want to be a position coach instead? Or was it always, hey, I want to be in the weight room working on that end?
No, I think I don't even think it crossed my mind, to be honest. I was hooked in high school. My high school strength coach, Dave Wetzel, introduced me to weightlifting. I went to a private school. I went to Catholic school back in Reading, and we didn't have a choice to go to gym class. It was like, if you're on the football team, you're lifting weights. Like our coach didn't play that. So I believe it was ninth grade when I transferred in, and Coach Wetzel was like very instrumental on, okay, hey, this is going to get you not only better, but it's gonna sharpen your sword. It's gonna make you tougher. You're gonna get bigger, stronger, faster, the whole 9 yards. And for me, I'm just a young kid. I was the short, fat kid, legitimately in ninth grade. But that first workout, I mean, I had never been that sore in my entire life. But after I got over that, I mean, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. So yeah, early on, I just kind of felt that, okay, hey, this might be something that I want to do, eventually down the road. I was really dead set, to be honest, man. I was really dead set on going to the military. I wanted to go like Special Forces, Marine Corps, because most of my family, on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side is very highly decorated, military background. So I was dead set on going into the military. I just wasn't smart enough to figure out the ASVABs and, all the above. So kind of had a different path. But yeah, never thought about being a position coach.
It looks like it worked out just fine, right? You're having tremendous successes. So just, I know I've listened to other podcasts with you on it, and you work with Lucas and all. It's hard enough to be a scholarship athlete and qualify. It's all hard enough to perform well, but right from the get-go, multiple times growing up before you finish college, you're already really challenged with big adversities. Mm-hmm. You talk a little bit about those, give everyone kind of the perspective of mental toughness that you had to develop at a young age, and I would say unfairly at a young age. But one, James, be thankful for the struggle, for it creates perseverance, right?
Amen. Amen.
There's the tremendous benefit, and this is awesome now. It's who you are, and it's giving you a calling and a passion, and you're making, my favorite word, impact. But unfortunately, no one really gets to that level mentally unless they've been kicked around pretty hard first, right?
Yeah.
No one grows up real nice and comfy and is like, okay, I'm making an impact now because I'm really tough. Right. Unfortunately, the toughness comes from the pain, right? So just share a little bit about that, because it's impressive that you can perform so well mentally and physically with people being challenged, right?
Yeah. So at a very young age, 5 years old, my mother passed away from a pulmonary embolism. She had a blood clot in her lungs due to, complications with her diabetes. She had been, basically overweight for a long time and been going through a lot of, trauma that I literally just found out, about a year and a half ago. Just kind of been unraveling that. But yeah, I mean, the last memory of that I have of my mom is literally myself being in her arms when she passed. It was like something that I can't get out of my brain. I'm 38 years old, and it's still, I could close my eyes and meditate and still relive that whole moment. But after that happened, myself and my two brothers, Andy and Tony being the oldest, Andy being the middle, I'm the youngest, ended up moving in with my aunt, her sister, across town. And she basically took us in from there. Um, had a really decent childhood growing up. I would say until I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, maybe a little bit older. Um, that's when a lot of the bad stuff started happening. I was physically and sexually abused um, by a person, a friend of the family. My aunt started physically abusing us, myself and my brothers. Our situation started to get a lot, just darker. I was just recently home back in Pennsylvania, helping my brother out and basically gutting out my childhood house. My aunt has been in a really rough spot and kind of let the house go. We're dealing with that as a family right now. But I noticed a change when there was an altercation between myself, my aunt, and my brother. I don't remember what it was over, but she had literally broke a marble chessboard over my head, and I was knocked out, unconscious. And my brother Andy pretty much stepped in, and like there was a physical altercation. And from that moment on, it just got really, really bad. Got really bad. My brother went off to jail. He got arrested. Went off to there for 2.5 years. He was at George Junior Republic in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ended up going to Grove City High School. And I think my aunt she just started slipping. Like the house was in shambles and it just unraveled, and then high school, man, was just, it was just, all right, try to figure out who you are. I had no idea who I was. After I got sexually abused, I literally just lost all respect for men. I had no, idea really who I was. I just had to kind of figure out, like, okay, why did this happen? I didn't want to tell anybody. Obviously, I was afraid to death of, feeling the shame and, all the anxiety that comes with it and just bearing that, that trauma, because it was traumatic. Like it was extremely traumatic. But I, through all that pain and adversity and just growing up in that environment from that point on, you kind of figure out what ways to go. And for me, to be honest, what fulfilled me was drugs and alcohol. I got up with the wrong crowd. I was, smoking weed. I was drinking. I was doing drugs. It was bad. It got really, really bad to the point where, I had to go into like basic like inpatient rehab center for a little bit and had to figure that whole thing out and get clean and sober and just, figure out how to navigate through life. I don't think I ever was really introduced to therapy that whole time. Other than when my mom passed away, we did therapy with the psychiatrist that the court appointed for us, but I don't remember anything. I don't remember getting anything out of it. And I even ask my brother to this day, I don't think he got anything out of it either. So just really trying to figure out how to navigate through life and how to be a man. My father wasn't really around. God rest his soul. He did the best that he could with what he had, but he just wasn't there. He wasn't present, and I didn't find out how to be a man. Like I wasn't taught, how to look another man in the eye was new to me. I was always putting my head down. I was always quiet. I didn't know how to really express my emotions. I didn't know how to talk to other people to get my emotions out, and feel confident being able to do that. Cause I lost trust for a lot of people, including some of my family members, and obviously with my aunt's situation, look, man, at the end of the day, I don't want to paint the picture like my aunt is the worst person on the world. Look, people go through things. I went through a lot of trauma, and I don't want to paint the picture like she's awful. She did awful things, 1000%. She's, owned up to that. She showed accountability to that, because I've since then voiced how I felt about that, and had the courage to be able to talk to her about those things. And now it's just, okay, let's rebuild, let's repair, right? That's the stage that we're in right now. But man, my, childhood all the way to high school and even in college was just a roller coaster, of just so many different open wounds that I didn't know how to close them. The only way that I knew how to close them was drugs and alcohol and, playing sports. That was something that, came about from just watching my brothers play football. Like my brother Tony was all state, had offers from Syracuse, Boston College, Temple, like Penn State, big time programs. But he decided not to pursue those, and for whatever reasons that was just what he didn't see himself going down that road. But I think at that age, I just saw that, hey, like this was an outlet for him, and could be an escape for me to get out of the house, to get out of that environment as much as humanly possible. Like I can't even count off the top of my head how many times I was probably home, even as a kid and, as a young teenager. Like I was running the streets or I was staying at another friend's house. Like I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be at my house at all. So yeah, it was a rough time, man.
I'm never going to have the right words to, respond to that other than I'm sorry you had to go through that. And at the same time, your perspective's clearly changed because you articulate it very, very clearly and confidently. So I'm sure that took a lot of time. So obviously, yeah, sorry to hear that occurred, but it's also impressive and celebrated in that you now are an advocate and your impact in other people's lives. One of the things I took from what you said, one of our earlier podcast guests was Jesse Dale, a big nutrition guy, bodybuilder, strongman, and he talked about being, abused, sexually abused when he was a young kid. People in family in the neighborhood was occurring, and in both instances, he's a big, like I call him a big man of Christ, and you seem to be as well. But the commonality that I just, for some reason, I picked up was that with both of you, like, he didn't have any problems with the guy in the neighborhood anymore, and no one else did, and he had forgiven that person. And you said, "Hey, my aunt did some terrible things, but isn't a terrible person. She's been accountable, and you sound like you have forgiven her as well." And what I tell folks sometimes is, when you've been wronged, and I've been wronged, and everyone has, and like my father, when he talked about when he was wronged by his parents, etc., like anybody in his life that ever wronged him, like he never forgave anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Consequently, he's just filled with this hate, and these other people, they don't even know it. So the hate that he has for these other folks just eats at himself. And once you forgive, I'm not saying forget and don't protect yourself and have barriers and have that, but once you forgive those folks, then that hate and pain goes away.
Yeah.
And then you're not hurting as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know when I hate on people, I'm like, I'm the one that's feeling the pain right now. They're not feeling anything. They're not even in the room.
Yeah,
right?
you're yeah, absolutely.
So having that piece is with the whole level of maturity, and it doesn't happen with a kid that's 5 years old or 9 or going through all the trauma. At that point, you're in survival mode, physically, mentally, and then to still come out and qualify for a scholarship for football, and then persevere. Now, the next question is a follow-up in that you're having these challenges. You said you can't look people in the face. You know how to articulate things. You know how to build relationships. Like you've never been taught it. And every kid in high school is trying to figure out who they are, regardless of going through any trauma. At some point, though, there must have been some kind of like bottoming out where it's like, you know what, enough of this. I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to take some steps forward. Like there has to be some type of event, right? You don't just wake up one day, hey, I'm fixed. So either you
Yeah.
have to go through a lot of work to get there, or something changed on a dime, or then you had to do a lot of work. So how are you able to have all those roadblocks and then get to where you are now? Like what changed?
I think for me, what changed was there was a time in college where, it would have been November 4th, 2008. It was when President
Specific.
Obama got elected into office. That was the night I literally hit the absolute most rock bottom I've ever hit in my life. I mean, there was no getting up off the canvas. I had attempted to take my own life. And that next day, I literally had the biggest change of perspective that you could ever have, because you wake up in the hospital and you see your family, you see your aunt, you see my brother was still living at the time. And just to see the looks on their faces of just complete shock and just like, why would you do something like this? Right. First and foremost. But then when I say why I did it and I unravel all those different things that I've dealt with and was navigating throughout not just high school, but in college, um, that changed my life forever, and that just kind of changed the trajectory, not just of my whole career, but to be honest, my relationships, my life, right? My family. I mean, it was just like that moment in time. Like you know what, man? Like I don't wish anything upon anybody, and I don't want anybody to ever get to the point to where I was, because if I would have had help first and foremost, and I would have been receptive to the help, I know that I would have never gotten myself to that point. Um, but look, it happened. I went through it, and that literally is the reason why I'm sitting here. Um, I made a declaration on that next day, that next week, that I was gonna not quit by any means necessary. I was gonna figure out how to heal my wounds, how to have confidence in myself for the first time in my life ever, to be able to hold my head up high and to not run away from any problems, any issues that I was experiencing.
Mm.
To be able to hit it head on was, that was why I
So we
did
got
what
a
I
little
did,
internet
right?
connection there.
But that day is forever etched in, my memory, number one. But had that not have happened, I think I'd probably be still wandering around trying to figure out life. So just really using that moment. But also, to be honest, Jim, like the people that were around me, like my best friend Ali, when he saved my life, when he took the belt off of, like literally took the belt off my neck, um, and waking up after that, and like seeing the EMTs around, and I'm like out of it, not knowing what's going on, being incoherent, and seeing his face for the first time and like him bawling his eyes out. Like, listen, when I say my best friend Ali was like probably one of the strongest people I've ever met, and he still is to this day. He's a huge advocate. Like, he's not my best friend; he's my brother, right? But seeing the look on his face that he had was like, I mean, it was like looking at a ghost. It was like looking at somebody that like wasn't there. He just couldn't believe that, I had gotten to that point. And I was like, look, man, like if I can get through this and if I can work myself through it, I'm never ever going to let that person down ever again. I'm never
Mm.
ever going to do that. And that's the impact that I try to have on people now, not just my athletes, but the people that I come across. I don't like to do transactional conversations. And when I say transactional conversations, I don't just, hey, how are you doing? Like, hey, how's your day going? Cool. Like, it's going great. Okay. Like, Elaborate, right? I got time. I got time because at the end of the day, I realized like you never know what somebody else is going through, right? Nobody knew. I other than myself trying to, attempt, suicide. Like nobody knew the pain that I was actually going through on a daily basis because I had the girlfriend, I had the car, I had the fame from playing football. I was probably one of the best athletes, at Lockhaven. At the time, right? And I'm not tooting my own horn. I was good at football. I was really good. I put a lot into it, but they never knew that I was still dealing with all the wounds and all the other things that had happened to me in my life, and that's why I'm so strong on just being number one, be a good person to people, be a good person to yourself. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of other people. And if you don't have that mindset, then man, I mean, it's like a never ending cycle of just roller coaster, right? Like I talked about in my childhood and my adolescence, like not being able to manage your own emotions and figure things out. It's just never ending, but you have to learn to get a grip on it. And man, I just hope that, it doesn't have to come to, you taking your own life to figure it out. Go. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, Jim. Sorry.
Take your time. Lucas will just edit it out.
Mommy, please get Titus out of here now. What's up? I'm going to be done in an hour, buddy. Come on, man. Come on, bro. The joys of fatherhood. Oh, boy.
I'm a little older. I got 6 kids, so yeah, I get it.
Nah, man, to be honest, I mean, kind of backtracking a little bit. I think if you don't set realistic expectations for yourself and you don't have realistic goals, it's going to be really hard pressed to navigate yourself through life, number one, because I truly believe that there's going to be times where life could literally be in your hands right now. Everything could be going your way one day. And then literally the next day, life could be right on top of you. And it's going to kick your ass. And if you don't have a plan, and if you don't have the maturity, number two, and if you don't have the resources available to you to be able to cope with those things, man, I think that's what we're dealing with nowadays, especially with athletes. It's just the coping mechanisms of being able to deal with extreme levels of adversity, and staying on track. I think that's huge. I think it's so important.
It kind of makes me think about whenever I was at Purdue, because I was just coming out of my junior year, going into my senior year that summer. My junior year was rough. Probably the worst, one of the worst years that I've had. With things that were going on in my life and whatnot and stuff. And it wasn't until, and I've talked to Jim about this before actually, and it wasn't until I got to Purdue when life hit me in the face and I had to figure it out. It was, I remember talking to my dad saying, "Hey, I got this internship." He's like, "How are you going to get there? Where are you going to live?" I was like, "I don't know, but I'm going to go do it." Right. So I get there and, I have no idea really what to expect, what's going to happen. I just know this is what I'm going to do. And things are really still kind of hitting the fan at home and stuff like that. Crazy things, me just trying to figure out this internship and do my best job. And I remember talking with you, Jeff. I don't know if you remember, it was kind of, we only had a couple, maybe 2 weeks left in the summer, 2 weeks left in the internship. And I get my mom tells me, we can't get loans for school. Yep. I don't know if you remember me talking to you about that. Yep. I'm like, I'm over here working at Purdue. I'm leaving Purdue to go work in a factory. I'm working a full-time job to make this, because I think I'm about to kick my career off. And I just get slapped with a letter. My mom saying like we can't get loans. You're gonna have to figure out how to make $25,000 in 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember talking to you like I don't know what the hell to do, man. This has been coming off my worst year, figuring this internship out, growing, maturing as a young man, and now everything I feel like I just worked hard to grow. Now I can't go back to school, and fortunately, we figured out a way. We figured something out, and I was able to go back to school. But I just remember sitting down and you were telling me a little bit about your story and your history and stuff. And I'll never forget it. It was when you said, when you were at your lowest point in life, there's really nowhere to go except for up.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere else to go except for up. And I really held on to that. I mean, I still hold on to that to this day. That's something I'll never forget. Something that you told me was just, hey, if you're ever at your low, man, there's nowhere else to go but up. And that's kind of how I viewed it. And it's kind of how I've kind of viewed a lot of anytime anything's ever got hard, I've always kind of reflected on that quote from that day, from that time. I remember it was just me and you in the office. And I remember you dropped that on me and I was just like, man, and that's coming off of that story we just got done talking about. So it's just, it's just a real life example of, for me personally and with you, where, you just kind of see that work through. So
That was a big moment for not only you, man, but for myself too, because I had not really shared a lot of my story with a lot of people. And man, I realized at that moment, like, listen, it doesn't matter who it is. God works in mysterious ways. And at that point in time, that was what was on my heart. And I felt as though it was my obligation to, pour out some things and pour into you as much as I could, because that's what you needed. And that wasn't, me trying to be sorrowful or anything of that nature. It was just like, look, hey man, I've been there.
Yeah.
Right. I've been I may not have been in the same situation, but I mean, shit, it's still kind of sort of the similar situation of almost basically not hitting rock bottom, but getting punched in the face. You didn't get jabbed, bro. You got right hooked and then uppercutted, fairly quickly. But you adapted and you countered it. You maneuvered and you worked through it. And that's the biggest lesson is that myself and people in general need to just work through it, right? That's the hardest thing is, getting to a point where you have the confidence to face the challenge, right? That's the beauty of it, right? Once you start to face the challenge, you've already won. You've literally already won. You've crossed the finish line of like saying, okay, hey, I was finishing kind of short. I was coming up short in every one of my decisions because I hesitated or I wasn't comfortable or I didn't have the confidence. And I listened to, the next person down the road and said, oh man, why would you go to a therapist? Or why would you talk about your emotions? Those are all distractions trying to get you away from the actual challenge. And at the end of the day, you got to make a choice. You have to make a choice to push forward and see the challenge head on, number one. But really, I think the level of maturity that you're at, I think that plays a lot of part in it. And if you're not, emotionally mature, okay, then let's figure out how to get more emotionally mature to where I can start asking for the challenge. That's something that I really have, like when we spoke, offline before, it's like, okay, I'm navigating in a new space right now. I'm trying to figure life out, right? While still maintaining being a husband, being a coach, being a mental health advocate, right? Being a business owner, all these different things. And I think if you don't accept, obviously where you're at, but if your feet aren't where they are, I think 9 times out of 10, man, life's going to hit you a lot harder if you're not where your feet are. So
that's kind of what, kind of plays into what me and Jim have said plenty of times on this podcast. Sometimes it just takes what it takes, and whatever that is, it's what you got to do. And it's going to be different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Every circumstance, every situation is different. But at the end of the day, it takes what it takes, and you're going to have to figure that out. And, so.
If you look on my hat, it's one of our core values you guys are just talking about. So if you watch that crap movie, Sisu, right? That word from Finland, it's one of our 6 core values. I'm not from Finland, but the word means guts and entrails, fortitude. Mm-hmm. So when you're at your lowest point, so this is the mantra for the entire country. When you're at your lowest point, you don't quit. You don't give up. You keep finding a way. So when you have that piece and you hit rock bottom, you'll stay afloat. Mm-hmm. The thing I really took, though, from what you guys were just working through and articulating was, I'm sure that one of Jeff's goals when he was younger is not to be in pain. I'm sure one of Jeff's goals was not to be abused anymore, right? And so, mm-hmm. Goals are important. You then said, well, if you don't have a plan, well, then what? And then you said, other people are trying to hold you back from moving forward.
Yeah.
The goals are nice. They're okay. They're directional.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the process and the plan and the system that gets you through it. And sometimes when you don't know what the hell you're doing, you just keep going, and then you get some negative feedback. This isn't working, so I'm going to adjust. And then your system changes a little bit. And so the new piece of my system is I'm adding therapy. All right, fine. So I'm getting a little bit better there, but I'm moving forward. I'm not just sitting. Yep. And if you're an athlete in the weight room, well, the system is to get you to be the best athlete. So if you're trying to be the best human, the goals are important because they're directional, but then you got to work out a plan and then move, like you said. You have to keep going forward and keep getting slapped in the face, but at least you're moving forward. That's the only way through. Sitting gets you nowhere. Just thinking about it and talking about it is nice, but your ideas are useless and a waste of time. It's your executed ideas that matter, so you got to move forward. Now, you're tasked with a lot of folks to play at a high level, right?
Yep.
And most of them probably haven't been in the pain that you have been in. And what I see and hear now is now that you recovered from that bottom, you saw your friend, how upset he was next to you as you're being helped with paramedics. And you see your whole family around you in the hospital. It's like the next day you have this goal that is now beyond you. I'm going to live for my family and my friends. And like you said, not let them down. So now I had this goal beyond you to be probably the best strength coach you can be, and then the best friend. And you said, I want to learn how to be a boyfriend and husband and father. So now you have this goal that's beyond you, right? And now I got the head coach of Oregon over here saying he's my right hand. So when you have that level of goal that's beyond you, you can see how you push and how you get stuff done because you're driven. Yep. How do you reach these kids where the goal beyond them is their NIL money, or it's I want to play, but it's not, I'm running with the 3s, I want to run with the 2s. That's not beyond anybody. That's not I'm doing this for Christ. I'm doing it for my mom who's dying, and I'm doing this for my brother who's in jail. Like that. That's a hard task, and it's hard to relate. Well, I'm not suicidal, so I don't know what that's like. Coach Eaton, what the hell does he know? He don't know me, right? That's a hard job. Like, how do you bridge that gap with these young kids? Because that's what we're called to do, right? Impact these young kids and get them to perform and reach them.
It's the best part of the job, though, because it is challenging. It is the hardest part about it. For me, I like to meet my athletes where they are. I've learned that God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So when it comes to trying to figure them out and trying to get them motivated or inspired, because everything starts with motivation first and foremost. It's external, right? But then after that, it comes from, it comes inspiration. What's within, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't approach it as, hey, I'm just trying to get to know you. Hey, I'm just trying to figure. No, I'm just, hey, what are you going through right now? Okay, let me take off the whistle. I'm not Coach Eaton anymore. I'm Jeff Eaton from Reading, Pennsylvania. I just so happen to have gone through a lot of stuff, right? Where are you currently at right now? What are you going through? And I just let them talk. And I just continue to let them talk, and they look at me like I'm crazy because I'm not saying anything back. And then you have that awkward silence where it's like, hey, are you going to keep talking? Or, hey, are you going to, am I going to talk? And it's like, nah, dude, like you came to me. Like, I'm not here to give you the answers right away. Right? That's not my job. I'm just here to listen to you. Because a lot of athletes, nowadays they don't know how to really articulate their feelings, their emotions, what they're going through. They do it through social media, right? Which is great. It's a great outlet for them. But where's the art of actually knowing how to have a conversation, right? And bouncing the feelings and emotions and actually letting the other person receive that energy and then reciprocate the energy back to them. And just you're kind of playing communication tennis. That's what I like to call it. That's become my superpower. And just, having a conversation. And then
Sure.
I always finish the conversation with, look, your conversation with me, other than if it's, detrimental to your health or your safety or whatever, is in confidence. It's never going to leave this room. Right. And you can take that all the way to the bank, and it will never leave the room unless it's, something that they're dealing with, suicide or attempted suicide or anything of that nature. Then yes, I have to formally tell them, hey, I have to report this. Hasn't happened all the way yet. Kind of got close to that, but yeah, I think at the end goal it's just to meet them where they are and say, okay, all right, here's where you are. How do we get to point B, point C, and go through the line of not skipping any steps within the process. And at the end of the conversation, really, it's just kind of saying everything that they've said to me in a sense where it's like, okay, you said this. All right. And they hear it and they're like, wow, I said that. I'm like, yeah, like this is what you told me. Okay, how does that make you feel? Right then and there in the moment. Well, coach, it doesn't make me feel really good. Okay, why do you think it doesn't make you feel good? Right? It could be I'm not getting any reps, with the ones or twos. Okay. All right. Let's figure out why you're not getting any reps with the ones or twos. Because it could be your own actions. It could be your own, lack of, knowledge of the game. The game could be too fast for you. Whatever that is, it could be an external thing. You could have gotten a fight with your girlfriend or whatever, right? And how do you deal with that? How are you navigating through that, right? And what are you willing to do to change that? Those are other questions that I ask. Like, what are you willing to do to change this? If it's an internal thing, okay, let's look within yourself. If it's lack of communication between you and your position coach, okay, let's navigate through that. Because at the end of the day, you can say all the things you want about it being his fault, but at the end of the day, is your position coach on the field with you? No, he's not. So how do we figure out how you can communicate your frustrations, your feelings, and not come off as being complaining or complacent or negative or anything of the above, and just meet that position coach where he's at or she's at and say, coach, why am I not getting on the field? Okay. Are you ready for the answer after that? Are you ready for them to give you the answer after that? Well, you don't do this well. You don't do that well. You don't do this well. Like, are you ready for that? Right? I got to be able to tell them that, hey, man, that might come down the pipe. They might tell you straight up that, hey, man, you're just not good enough right now. And you got to be able to accept that. And if you're not ready to accept that, then there needs to be more work, done within yourself. So I think, after that process happens, it's important to not just leave your thumb off of them, right? Follow up. Say, hey, you have 24 hours to get in touch with this person. If it needs to be a conversation with a coach, or maybe it's one of their teammates or whatever. But you also have 24 hours to write down your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, and what you feel like is holding you back based upon the conversation that we had. And then you're going to come back and we're going to revisit it and you're going to look at it. And I want to see if you're really about helping yourself and getting yourself better, then you'll show me the work that you've literally put in within, a couple hours of us talking. I think that's huge. I think we missed the mark. I think, especially in my profession, in strength and conditioning at the Division I level, the Power 5 setting, it's like you said, it's become NIL, it's become you're a number, you're this, you're an entity, right? But we're missing the mark. They're people. They're human beings, man or female. They're a human being at the end of the day. And our business is service, period. It is a people-driven industry. So at the end of the day, if I can get to them and make them feel like a better person and help them navigate through that, then I've won. And I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about the rings. I don't care about none of that. What I care about is when an individual or an athlete comes back to me and they can say, hey, coach, what you said to me 10 years ago changed my life. Coach, I use it right now in my marriage, which I've already started to have those conversations with some of my athletes, former athletes. Coach, what you say to me on a daily basis literally helps me get through some really, really tough times. Coach, the fact that you actually listened to me taught me that being a man is not just being about macho and gung-ho and all these other toxic masculinity things and whatever. Being a strong man is being rooted in your faith, which I truly believe in, but also being able to listen to another person, male or female, and just being able to level with somebody and just meet them where they're at and just say, hey man, I'm here for you. Like I don't have all the answers. I think that's another thing. Like, get rid of your ego. Get rid of it. Like, keep it far down the road, locate it, make sure it's still there because your ego helps you in certain aspects. It helps you be driven. But use it in a better way, use it in a really good way that helps the athletes relate to you and just go back and forth, man. Don't overcomplicate it. I think that's the other thing. Just don't overcomplicate it.
I think, what I see and, having 6 kids and then training student athletes and being around even adults, a lot of times they're taught, just keep your head down and shut up, right? When they're kids or they're students. And then they develop their communication skills through social media or texting where, if you're having trouble looking people in the eye before social media, well, now it's even harder. Like no one calls people up and asks them out on a date like I did, but I'm 49, right?
Yeah.
So it's totally different. And then people don't show up. They just like ghost you. It's okay. It's all right. I mean, that's a level of disrespect. Say I'm going to be there and then get ghosted.
Yep.
So they don't know how to communicate very well or haven't been taught it. And now they have to go and advocate for themselves with a professional whose $1 million job is on the line, right? And so they're under tremendous pressure to perform. And these are their assets are the athletes on the field. And they have to develop this dynamic. Super hard to do and super hard to teach these, student athletes to do that. So you have an outstanding job in front of you because it makes such a huge impact. I like what you said about a lot that you're going to ask this question, are you ready for the answer? So don't ask a question you're not ready for the answer. So when Lucas and I deal with our athletes, we look at their head. In their head, there's their mindset, there's their knowledge of the sport, and there's what comes out of their mouth. We call it teammates, dealing with teammates, leadership team, teammates on the field, support team. Physically, what goes in your mouth is your nutrition. And then what do you do with it? That's how you train. And then how do you recover? And you're saying, well, let's look at your weaknesses, right? So I'm this finance nerd, went to Purdue, got my MBA because I used to work in the financial world for 15 years before I completely got rid of that. And I opened a gym and been 10 years doing strength and conditioning. So I took some basics from business school and I run it through this kid. And I say, all right, let's go over your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, your SWOT analysis in your mindset or your training. whatever your best strength is in any one of those 6 areas, that's your competitive advantage, at least in a business sense. This is how you win. I'm stronger than you, so I'm going to be able to exert more force if it's training. What's your biggest weakness? Well, I got bad mobility. All right. So now your biggest weakness is your weakling. That's what holds you back. Until you bring up your biggest weakness, you have a limiting factor. Your opportunity in the SWOT analysis, this is your target. So my opportunities, if I can improve my mobility, my opportunities that I won't be injured, and I can handle getting torqued around when I'm getting hit. The threat is a big injury from being too tight, shoulder tear, ACL tear, high ankle sprain, right? So here we go on your training. This is what the target is. So if we can elevate this, and then the coach sees it, hey, this is no longer a limiting factor. Like, I'm doing better. Or if it's the knowledge, then it's going to be your playbook. I know my position and the guys around me, so I can help them out. That's how because I'm just big nerd. I'm like, let's write it down. This is what your target's going to be. We're going to work on this every day for 30 days, come back and then reevaluate. That way, it's not just like, well, you just need to work harder on the field. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. No. Or, you need to have better nutrition. What do you mean? What does that mean? How much meat do I need to have? How much creatine do I need to have? How much water should I have, right? You have to lay it out chapter and verse, because eat better, sleep better is too broad, right? And we know it backwards and forwards, and they don't know it. So if we can crystallize and say, do this one thing and be process oriented, all right, kid's going to be like, all right, I'm empowered now. I have a shot. Here's my plan. Check my box. The car's running better, right? The machine's running better. And that's really the way we manage the kids and work with them. And it sounds like you have to do a lot of the same things and then have the tough conversations with them.
Yeah.
I'm looking all. Go ahead.
No, to elaborate on that, man, I will say this. I think this generation kind of they kind of get the raw deal, man. Like, I think in just dealing with my guys for the 3 years that I've been here, my guys want information. My guys seek out information. Like, I think they get the short end of the stick when it comes to, yes, they're on social media all the time. They're just trying to find information. They're trying to get more information. I think we as communicators have kind of lost the art of being able to communicate effectively. I think we're the ones that need to adapt and adjust. Like, we all preach that, hey, we got to adapt, adjust, overcome. It's time for us. And I've even had to pivot and learn to navigate in different spaces and ask better questions. Ask better questions that lead to better answers, especially with my guys. Because at the end of the day, if they're coming to you for questions or for answers, like, they're coming to you for a reason, because they trust you, first and foremost. They might not even know you all the way. That's fine, but they're still going to come to you because you're in a position that they feel as though you should know, A through Z, right? And I think also on the other side of that, I think there needs to be some vulnerability and transparency when it comes to answering those questions, and say, hey, man, like, this is something new to me. I'm very foreign to it, but my answer is, I don't know the answer right now, but I'm going to figure this out. So that way I can get you down that road. I might not be able to give you the answer head on. You might need to do some digging and do some searching. But, if an athlete comes to you, they're coming to you for a reason. And I think we need to, give them some credit when it's due, because this generation is very smart. They're not idiots. They're very savvy. They're very quick. Do they have some, weaknesses and faults? Absolutely. But everybody does. But at the end of the day, I think as communicators and leaders, that's the number one thing, is being able to communicate effectively to them and what's going to hit them at that moment and hit home. That's key.
And you crystallized it when you said the trust word. So if the athlete doesn't quite trust you yet in your position, you haven't built it as a leader, and then maybe you haven't educated the athlete enough on why we're doing some things so they can have some buy-in. Once they do trust you, you could tell them the sky's purple and they'll believe you, right?
No doubt.
But when you let your ego slow you down by saying just a quick answer to appease them, and like, you got 2 little kids, your little kids, they know when you're bullshitting that kid, right? The kids, they know when you're
Oh, no
bullshitting them,
doubt.
right?
No doubt.
So you start doing that at all, and they sniff that, they're like, okay, they're going to discount what you said a little bit. The next time they come talk to you, they're like, yeah, okay, no, we'll see. So it's you actually improve the level of trust by saying, I don't know quite yet. Let me go ask this other guy who's going to ask this other guy, and then all right, now we're figured out. So now the kid learns, hey, even if he knows or doesn't know, we're still going to work until we have the answer, right? And that it gets shuffled along. And I understand there's time constraints, there's money constraints, there's performance constraints. So, but when you say, hey, we're still people and it's about relationships, well, that's going to be true until the whole earth quits spinning on its axis.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't not embrace the NIL movement. I love the NIL movement. I don't have a problem with it, right? Where the only issue that I have with it is the lack of education that comes with the NIL, right? I think universities across the board, including the University of Miami, we could always be better in every aspect of what we're doing. But I think when you don't educate your athletes on, okay, what does real money look like, right? Number one, okay, what is going to come with that, right? Because everything has a risk and it comes with a cost, right? And I think if we don't be able to articulate that and educate our athletes well enough, and just say, hey, man, yeah, I'm happy for you. Like, I applaud it. I want you to make as much money as you possibly can, because here's the thing. You're aspiring to do that anyway. You want to go to the NFL, you want to go to the MLB, you want to go to the NHL. Guess what? They're throwing real money at you now. So this is your first opportunity. This is your first go around to actually see if you can handle that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not wait until you get to the pros to figure it out. Let's figure it out now. Let's figure out how to navigate through it now, right? Just like how we are in the weight room. Everybody starts at some point in time. You could be a novice to an advanced lifter. It doesn't matter. Everybody starts at square one, right? Okay, how are we going to teach you how to get more proficient in the lifts, right? How are we going to teach you how to be more efficient when it comes to listening and being able to take, hard coaching or pay attention to the details within the lifts and be so dialed in that you're laser focused on one specific thing and not have any distractions. I think that goes all hand in hand with exactly what you're saying, especially when it comes to the NIL and all the other things that are pulling these athletes, in so many different directions.
Well, I would say it's a nice problem to have versus not having the money at all, right? Yes,
Yeah.
there's new unintended consequences and there's side effects, sure. But I'd rather have the opportunity than not have the opportunity, at all. Now this is developing the size and scope of a program. Once you're in the NFL in the league, you have to take mandatory classes. Here's how you handle money, right? Here's how you handle it. This is what a mortgage looks like. Because no one knows that. Right? You have to be taught everything. So some kids they're making $100,000 or more, $500,000 in high school or in college. Like, turns out that's more than Lucas and I are making running this podcast, right? So, but they have to learn that at some point.
We got a couple guys where I coach at the school I'm at that are getting ready to go to the next level, and they're about to be exposed to this stuff, and it's an interesting. It's completely new for me to have conversations with those guys about this stuff, because quite frankly, I got $0 for going to college, and I didn't get any NIL deals, and it's so they're kind of experiencing kind of that stuff as they're talking to coaches, and as they're going through their recruitment process and stuff like that. It's kind of a learning curve and a learning experience for me as well, to kind of see those guys, talk about, hey, this is what I'm going to be getting when I get to campus. Like, this is what's going to be. So it's pretty new for me. I'll say that, because especially when you get them, for me, I'm working with high school kids when they're talking about this stuff, not just when you're with college athletes that are already dealing with it. It's a lot of these kids aren't getting those resources early, especially if they're coming into the college. And it's we had one of Ohio State's very well known receiver coach come in, and it's when he's talking to these guys about when you get to this is what it's going to look like when you get here. This is your NIL money. This is your scholarship. This is you can tell when the kids when they're getting told this stuff, they're just like they have no idea. And quite frankly, if they don't got the resources to be like you said earlier, to be educated on that, I mean, the earlier the better they can learn. So
it's huge. It's huge for not only them to understand it, but it's also important for the people that are teaching it, because it's going to change. It's not going to be the same every month. It's not going to be the same every year. Look, they're throwing more and more and more and bigger contracts at all different types of athletes, from football to basketball to rowing to baseball. I mean, it's like it's getting to the point now where I hate to say it, man, but it's more professional athletes, like on the pro, like a pro amateur almost. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just what it's becoming. And look, if people don't realize that, and us as coaches don't understand that and don't learn to navigate through that space, I think we're in for a long haul. But like I said, I applaud it. I want them to make the money that they feel like they should make. I'm huge on them earning it. And I tell them to their face, look, man, like if you aspire to be the top guy on the team, you better damn well earn it, because I've met your parents at that point. I've passed the recruiting visits and all the other stuff. Like I know some of these parents that come through this, the walls of where we work. And I know the type of caliber of people they are. And I know damn well if I put them on speed dial and I talk to them and I tell them, hey, your son's acting like this, you're going to have a long conversation with them. So I think just being able to stand your ground and just say, hey, all right, let's figure this thing out. Let's get better. Let's work through it together. And not be jealous or anything. Like, look, some of the guys on the team make more money than me. That's just the nature of where we're at. But at the end of the day, man, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm going to be real to the point. I'm going to be respectful. I'm always going to be truthful. I'm always going to be honest. And like you said, Jim, like that trust factor is everything. Doesn't matter if it's college or pros, because I know some pros. I've trained a lot of, now, pro guys that are still, in the NFL right now. And they say it all the time. Like, coach, there's certain coaches on this staff that we don't respect because they blow smoke. And then there's other coaches that give it to us raw and they give it to us real. And those are the ones that we are surrounding ourselves with. So it doesn't change no matter what level you're at. High school, college, pro, it doesn't change. People are people. Still need to be a good person at the end of the day.
You just said that, hey, if you want to start run with the ones and the twos, you have to be performing at a higher level. If you want to be making this money, you have to be performing at a higher level. Mm-hmm. It all comes down to a whole supply and demand issue right out of economics. There's the demand for one position. There's one quarterback. The supply is we got 5, right? So to earn that money, that price, you got to be the best on that supply to equal the demand of just one, right? Mm-hmm. That's why people say, well, I can't believe NFL quarterbacks make so much money. I go, yeah, there's only 32 playing in millions and billions of people. There's 32 playing. That's it. So that's why.
There you go.
Now, you've been around a number of years around some legit coaches and athletes. Mm-hmm. The next question is, what's a commonality you find with these high achievers, these elite levels, ones that are really pushing and performing mindset-wise? And then 2, habit-wise. Like, what are some of the mindsets that are common, and what are some of the habits? You're like, hey, you know what? These guys are always winning. I'm always seeing this. I'm always seeing
Just
this.
relentless competitors.
I
Like
love that
just
word.
the willingness to just give their best literally every single day. We got a guy here. He's a young kid. Man, oh my God. I mean, he's special. He has it. He has it. And everybody knows it. He knows it. But he's humble enough to still come in with the same mindset, the same mentality, and attack every single day like it's literally his first day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the separator for me, is they're willing to compete at anything, right? They could be competing at putting their socks on faster, right? They're not willing, they don't want to lose. I think that's a commonality of a lot of our competitors. I think the habits, I think where those come in, I think first and foremost, they're consistent. They know what to put in their bodies. They are extreme, they're extreme in a sense to where they ask the right questions, they get the right answers, but they're willing to invest. I don't think sacrifice is a good word. I think investing is a good word. I think sacrifice kind of gets overused a little bit. I think if you can learn to flip your mindset and say, "Hey, I'm going to put into football everything," you're going to get a return on your investment, right? The more you invest, the more you're going to get back on your investment, right? You might take some losses here and there. Yes, we know that that's how the business works, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I think they can hang their heads on the fact that they put literally everything into it. So nutritionally, psychologically, I think, obviously spiritually, if they believe what they believe in, and obviously physically, their physical habits is everything, right? Because it all starts with what you believe in. That's how you formulate your habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you truly believe that, taking creatine or taking protein or, eating your carbohydrates at the right time is going to make you a better athlete, you're going to be a better athlete because you're going to consistently do that over and over and over and over again, right? And then you're going to start to see the results of those habits. So I think those traits, and those commonalities for, them being elite level competitors is what separates, a lot of the athletes that I've trained, that have gone on to do really, really great things. And some of the other guys that, are not as good, but they're starting to figure out, like, hey man, I got to take care of my body. All right, recovery and nutrition is 90% of literally everything, right? Some of them figure it out later in their life, but other ones have figured it out from the jump. And those are the ones that usually are the more sustainable and available, on the field.
I love when I talk to the greats because I feel smart because I'm around them. But we had Mickey Marotti, head of strength and conditioning at Ohio State, and we had Tom Berry, head of West Side Barbell.
Yep.
We asked both of them some similar questions. Tom goes, obsessed. Athletes are obsessed, and it's with everything.
Yep.
Mickey said relentless. The guy we just interviewed was Dr. Tom Klutwijk, big knee surgeon, knee expert. The whole team is elite, right? And 25 years with Indiana State and 25 years with the Colts as the knee guy, the only knee guy. He's that good. And we asked him for some interesting stories. He goes, yeah, he starts off with Peyton, and then he hits us up with Dwight Freeney. Peyton gets, when camp is opening, he's the first one there before the coaches, before everybody. He's there first. Dwight Freeney, when he's dealing with the doctors, he's like, hey, don't just tell me what you think it is. I want to see data. I want to know everything. I want to know why this is this, or why I'm going to be faster here, or what's at risk here. There was nothing like, I'm okay. I don't need to be competitive in this area. They want to be competitive in everything. They're competitive in their rehab. They're competitive and making sure they're hydrated enough every day, right? They're competitive with their film study, and it's everyone at the high level, the statue level, I call them, because they make statues of only some really awesome people. The people that aren't awesome, there's no real statue of those folks unless you're, really bad person, I guess. But it's that relentless and consistent thing that is the commonality. I also like here in your notes, you wrote, people need to have a log. That way you know where you are, see if you're progressing, and that way you can adjust. So when you have a log, you can't really improve your habit until you have it. And then your log tells you how to adjust it and what the adjustment looks like and kind of gives you these benchmarks and where you're at. So I like that piece a lot too, that you pointed out here in your notes.
That's mandatory for all my interns. All my interns have a training log. All my interns have a life log. Physically, spiritually, mentally, we categorize those three different things. And I would say probably about bi-weekly, I'm checking in. Okay, where are you at with your spiritual tank? Where are you at with your physical tank? Where are you at with your mental tank? Right? Are you on E and on all categories? Or are you on E in one category? And one of the things that I found is the best way is to, obviously, what's my mental tank? Where's my physical tank? What's my spiritual tank? But also my log. What's my training log look like? What do my journal notes look like? I journal every once in a while, and when I'm trying to move my emotions, which my therapist calls like moving your emotions and getting them out. I show my guys that. I say, hey man, this is where I'm at this week, or this is where I'm at, today. I think it's so instrumental because if you don't have it down on paper or any form of, something that you could see literally every day, then how the hell are you going to know where you're at? Like you're just, it's just hearsay, right? Like I could say that, I want to bench press, 500 pounds, but okay, how am I going to get there? Right? How am I going to be able to know how to get there if I don't look at my training log and say, hey man, like, dude, you're not getting any real back work. You're not getting any density work. You're not getting any tricep work. How do you expect to be a great presser if your triceps and back aren't strong, right? Because we know that those are the two main muscles that aid in bench pressing. Yep. So from a training aspect, but even from a life aspect, you got to be able to check yourself where you're at and know how to adjust. But also, I think find an accountability partner. Find somebody that literally is going to tell you what you don't want to hear.
Yes.
Right? Not just what you want to hear. Right?
No.
Find the person that when you're about to fall, they literally catch you at moment's notice. And it's like, hey, I need you to pray for me right now. My marriage is going down the tubes, or hey, I need you to pray for me right now. I just lost my brother. Or hey, I need you to pray for me because I'm in a position to where I'm, contemplating living or not, right? I need you to get here if you can, right? Or hey man, I'm feeling like I'm being wronged in some form or fashion at my job, or something's not going well in my career. Okay, you have that person that's going to listen to you, but they're going to ask you questions, and then based upon your response, they're going to say, "Hey man, like okay, we need to figure out how to, get you through this situation," or "Hey man, you're full of shit. Like you got to pick it up. You got to put more into it." And I think if you don't have those people, then you need to be actively searching those people out. And if you do have those people, God bless you, because, I know I can stand firm and I could sit here and tell you that I have those people in my life, whether if it's spiritual, financial, physical, career wise. Right. And we've gotten to the space and place to where it's no longer we're afraid to communicate on a level of like vulnerability and saying, hey man, like we have an accountability text with my best friends from college. My best friend Ali, Cam, Devin and Erie, like those are all my guys from college. We check in with each other literally every day, but also every week. We say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? Right? And don't just sugarcoat it. If you're at a 2, okay, we're probably getting on a FaceTime call because we need to see face to face, right? If you're at a 5, right? Okay, why are you in the middle, right? If you're at a 10, okay, you tell me why you're at a 10, and then you got to give something back to the group of how to get to that 10. It's not just, hey man, like I'm blissful, man. I'm just going through life. Everything's happening for me. No, because listen, man, nothing just happens. You don't just wake up like happy. I don't know. I don't. I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm intentional. I'm
Yes.
intentional. I put my feet down. I make sure I get the shock of putting my feet into the ground. I want to feel the ground come up through my body, right? I want to be intentional by thanking God for the breath that's in my lungs, for me being able to see, hear, and think and feel. Those are my intentions that I set from day one, from literally when my head gets off the pillow. And I do the same thing with my wife, something that we started doing more, as husband and wife, is praying before we go to bed, right? Being intentional with, bettering our marriage, but also being more spiritual and getting closer to the person or thing that we feel has given us literally everything and lay down his life for us to be able to have the things that we have, right? That's me, right? But also going back to your circle, if you don't have those people, you need to find those people. And don't stop at, one person, right? Give that person a chance. Give them a chance to, earn your trust and vice versa. And if they turn out to be the person that is going to sit there and listen to you and meet you where you are, and not be judgmental, even when you're at your lowest point, those are the people that you need to keep around. And it might be the person that you wouldn't even think of.
Yep.
I got man, I got interns that I've been blessed to lead, and golly, man. My one intern that I had at Oregon and at Miami, he's now at Texas A&M, and I'm going to shout his name out. His name's Bill Young. I learned more from Bill in a whole year and a half than I ever would have in my whole career. In a year and a half, I learned more from an intern and training with him than I have in my whole 18 years or however long I've been doing this. I found an accountability partner. I found that I had to drop my own ego, because on paper he's beneath me, or he's beside me, or however you want to call it. He's an intern. There's no reason why he should know more than me in certain aspects. There's no reason why he should be able to help me in certain aspects, because I'm the assistant, right? I'm the assistant strength coordinator. I'm the number 2 guy. I'm the internship coordinator. All these labels that you get labeled with, right? That was the perception. But at the end of the day, learning from him and growing with him and training with him was, it was instrumental to me actually staying in strength and conditioning, right? Like, here's a young man that literally would, sit there and listen, and I would do the same with him, and we would just go through it, right? He was in a very dark place before he left University of Miami. And I'm not going to go all the way into his story, but man, you want to talk about getting hit in the face and just literally persevering and just going through it. And then just saying, hey, coach, like we're going to keep doing this. I'm not going to give up. Like, we're just going to keep rolling and just keep fighting through it. And then next thing you know, okay, he gets a job with Missouri State, right? He's an assistant. Goes from basically being a paid intern to being an assistant. Decent situation to start. Turns out to not be a great situation for him. Calls me, calls our circle, says, hey, what do I do? Bro, go through it. Don't complain. Don't be negative. You're there for one reason, to serve the athletes. You know what to do. You've been through it, right? There's nothing that can literally break you. Okay? Goes through that situation, gets better, starts to change his mindset, continues to get better and better and better, earns the buy-in of the athletes, right? Athletes start coming to him more and more. Now he's in a position of more impact, right? Not power, but he's in a position of impact. A lot of them are going to him, right? Gets
That's
to a
the
point
word.
where he's like, okay, well, now what do I do? Like, I don't want to undermine my boss, or I don't want to overstep him. Hey, have a tough conversation with him, right? Let him know how you're feeling. Let him know where you're at. Let him know that you're here to assist in everything that he's doing. So that way you can get better from that situation and actually learn how to navigate when you're talking to a supervisor, and how to, kind of sift through that. Fast forward, his guy gets let go. The head guy gets let go. He called me probably three or 4 weeks before it happened. And I said, dude, if you don't have your program ready right now, you're not made to be a strength coach. You're in it for the wrong reason. You got to act as if you're the head strength coach. You better have your 8-week program ready to roll. Come to find out, head coach meets with him, said, hey, I like you. The guys like you. What do you think we should do? Oh, as a matter of fact, coach, here's my program. Sits down with the head coach, right? Head coach says, you're going to be my interim guy right now. I want to see if you can do it. I mean, obviously, Bill's like 27 years old, probably one of the youngest strength coaches, at the D1 level in that regard, right? Sits down with him, said, hey, you're going to be my interim guy. We'll see how it works out. I'm still going to have to interview other people. Cool, coach, just to give me the opportunity to lead your team. Kills it, crushes it, right? Another opportunity comes along. Gets another job with Jacksonville State, right? Another guy that we're affiliated with. Continues to do a great job at Missouri State. They end up bringing in somebody else. No harm, no foul, right? Now you've literally bridged the gap. You've created another relationship, another opportunity with, down the road with all the other coaches and the head coach. Goes to Jacksonville State. The head guy at Jacksonville State ends up getting a job at Texas A&M. Unbeknownst to him, right? The head guy at Jacksonville State says, hey, come to our bowl game. It's in New Orleans. Bill's like, why would I go to New Orleans? I'm like, dude, go to New Orleans. Like, it's not about that. Go to New Orleans. Goes to New Orleans, works the bowl game. They actually win the bowl game. He gets a freaking ring out of it. And then Tommy Moffitt gets the job at Texas A&M. Tommy Moffitt calls our people. We have a conversation. Bill gets pushed up the ladder as far as people that he needs to get hired, right? Just so happens that the job that Bill did at Missouri State, the internships that he did with us at Oregon and Miami, the fact that he came back to Miami to get better, to learn, then goes to Missouri State, does an amazing job, puts it in Coach Moffitt's mind that, hey, this is a guy that I need to hire, because if he's willing to do that and go through all that, then that's the guy that I want on staff, right? So
beautiful.
I mean, that's just one instance, but like at the end of the day, man, like, we talk about your people and you talk about your circle, man, like it could be anybody, and that's the guy that I lean on. I tell him all my deepest, darkest secrets, and all the things that I go through and I struggle with as a man, number one, but also, struggle with as a coach. I call him now for programming and all the different things, because he's evolved, and he's willing to sit there and listen,
That's awesome. Lucas and I always talk about people on your team, and they would say, hey, I need an accountability friend. And we would say, no, not a friend. We call them allies, because they'll keep you right. And I like the fact about the log, because I'm writing one to go along with the book. So here's your athlete's log in season and out of season that keep you pushing forward. Jeff, I want to meet you face to face. This this is inspiring, and I love everything you have to say. I'm going to come to Miami the first part of the season, and I'm going to come watch you guys play.
Yeah, I love it.
Selfishly, my son's going to be playing against you guys.
I love that.
Yeah, so my son Jack is a linebacker, number 21 for Ball State, and I think week 1 or week 2, we'll all be down there in Miami against you guys. So
doors are wide open, brother.
Yeah. Well,
I guess I'll have to come too, probably. I don't know.
Look for 21 out there, right?
I will.
All right, so 90 minutes. We can go for another 90 minutes, and I know you guys got families and probably hungry, so I'm gonna run through these rapid fire questions. Unless Lucas, you got anything else real quick, but we'll go through these. All right, perfect. What do you listen to when you train?
LMA, baby.
Metallica, number 1. It's the greatest metal band of all time.
All right.
Also gospel music as well.
Okay. What's a place or adventure you'd like to do that you haven't done, and you got to bring your wife?
Oh, man, I want to go to Maui. So bad.
It's pretty there.
Yeah.
Favorite sport movie?
Oh, wow.
Or couple, because there's a lot, right?
Oh, definitely The Program.
Are you an Alvin Mack or a Latimer guy?
I'm a Latimer guy, all the way.
Okay. All right. Starting defense, place at the table.
Absolutely. Definitely Bloodsport would be another one.
These older guys like those Van Damme. I like that too. Mm-hmm.
Dude, Bloodsport is amazing. Probably a newer one would be, man, I love Remember the Titans, man. That's a beautiful movie, man.
Yep. I'm assuming football's your favorite sport. You have another one at all?
Yeah, you know what, man? I loved wrestling. I love wrestling a lot. I wrestled in like middle school. Yeah, so I would say wrestling is another one. Yeah, for sure.
Favorite athlete to watch? Any sport?
Golly.
That's
now
tough, right?
or in the past?
Anybody.
Man. Favorite athlete to watch would probably be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, me too.
For sure. On the basketball side, yeah. Football side would be Reggie White. Loved Reggie White. That's my idol. Like if I, obviously if he didn't pass away, I would love to have met him. Man. Hockey wise, I would probably say Wayne Gretzky. He's a beast. I'm just a guy that loves watching relentless competitors, man. I love like, like even like a Michael Phelps. Like if I could meet Michael Phelps, that dude's a badass.
Right.
Like I would love, I love that. I would love to meet that. I'd love to meet him.
You got a book or two that you love?
Yeah, Culture Code. Culture Code is a very good book. I'm actually reading right now. I'm reading Tim Grover's book, Winning.
Yeah, I got that one.
Great book. And then the other one is Deliberate Discomfort. Jason Van Camp, military guy. I'm really starting to get into a lot of military like leadership books. Just learning from the guys that have been at like the tip of the spear type of guys.
Yep. So a lot of Jocko stuff there.
Yeah.
Any book or movie, could be comics or whatever, favorite superhero and favorite villain?
Favorite superhero is the Hulk. Love the Hulk. Favorite villain would be the Joker from The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Heath Ledger was outstanding.
Incredible.
Favorite lift to do?
Deadlift.
1,000. If you had 10 million.
I knew that one was coming for some reason.
Hell yeah.
If you had 10 million, what job would you do?
10 million? Golly. I would still be a coach for sure. I would have my own facility and not just be strength and conditioning facility. I think it would be a full-on kind of like a sports academy, Exos. But I would also specialize in the mental health aspect of it as well. Bring in some therapists and things of that nature, especially for the youth. as well, for sure.
Beautiful. You have
Keep
a quote?
that.
Go ahead.
I keep that in mind. My girlfriend is getting her doctorate in sports psychology, so
That's fire, man.
keep that in mind in a couple of years.
I will.
Do you have a favorite quote or two that you like?
Not really. I mean, I like the Aristotle quote, excellence is a habit. You know, it's not an act, but it's a habit. Not really a big quote guy. Not
Gotcha.
really a big quote guy.
Well, Jeff, I know we can find you at Hustle and Cultivate. We can also find you at the U. So there's your mental health side, and then there's your, your actual job profession. So we'll be looking for you both places. Man, it's been a tremendous discussion. Loved it. Blessed with your time and your knowledge and your authenticity, your actionable habits that we can implement. And I, personally just grew a little bit today, just writing down the word, invest versus sacrifice. So I took a lot away from it. So selfishly, I'm really fulfilled and my heart's full. So thank you. Thank you for your time and effort. So Jeff, great having you guys on. Check him out on social media. Check him out on his website. And as always, for anyone that wants to send us questions, we're at info@athlete-builder.com. Be on the lookout for the Athlete Builder Summit, which has been solidified. It's going to be June 22nd in Indianapolis with a number of speakers on how to get better mentally and physically. So, Jeff, thanks a lot, man. Looking forward to seeing you when Ball State comes down, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.